evening. Welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today about Don Dokken. This is pretty special. How are you?
I'm doing good. I just got home last night from a show in Massachusetts and it was a lot of fun. It was 70 degrees, perfect night out. And we had about 7,000 people. It was a huge festival in Springfield.
The Big
And that
E.
was fun. But that
It's
was a
near
quick
me.
turnaround. I was gone less than 48 hours.
That was. I almost went to the show, but it's so crazy to go there because I live in Connecticut. So every year, everyone always goes to the Big E. It's a thing, but it's
We
so
couldn't believe
packed.
it. I mean, apparently it's 2 or 3 weeks long and
Yeah,
we had bad turnout, but raining like hell up there. So we got there and it was perfect weather. And our hotel was like something like 10 minutes away and it took us an hour.
the
The
traffic, right?
traffic was just so they had like, tens of thousands of people
Yeah,
there.
it's
So we
bananas.
got there. It was hard, but we got there. So we were on stage at 8, but we left at like 3 o'clock and just
Wow.
got there at 4 and just sound checked and just stayed there. But it was a
Did you
lot
get to
of
see
fun.
anything? I mean, because it's hard. Because I mean, obviously, you can't really go around to the crowds, but there's things that are like
No.
it's known for, like the potato. Did anybody like get any food for you guys from the state
Oh,
houses and stuff?
I'm sure it's been filmed. I said on stage, I said, I love fairs and festivals because I love corn dogs.
I do too.
I love corn dogs. I never think about it, but when I'm in a fair, it must be some childhood thing. I want a corn dog. So in the middle of the show, this guy walked up with like a foot long corn dog, big ass one. And I says on the microphone, I said, I love corn dogs as long as they're crispy and well done. And this guy, literally in the middle of the show, walked up with a corn dog and went, yes. So that was
That's
pretty
pretty awesome.
funny. I took a bite out of it and I was supposed to go back. The band's starting the song and I'm chewing, trying to swallow my corn dog. I handed it back to him. And I said, sorry, guys, let me just swallow this piece of a corn dog. But I
That's
love corn dogs. I don't know why. I never eat them. Hey, in New Mexico, where I live, there are no corn dogs. But it was
yeah,
pretty fun. Somebody actually went and got me one.
that's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. It's so packed through the years. It's gotten bigger and bigger. So it's
Huge.
people don't know. It's like they have like all the state houses doing the state houses. So each house like you can get like maple syrup and like Maine is known for the baked potato. The lines go on for days for the baked potato. It's crazy, but it's
And
kind
the
of cool. You went there.
potatoes are like gigantic.
Yeah,
And
they're
you get
loaded.
sour cream, onion, chives, bacon
They are
bits.
good. They are
I
good.
mean, but you got to stand in line. So, but I was just stoked that somebody actually went and got me a corn dog and brought it on
That's
stage.
pretty cool. That is really cool. That's that's awesome. And actually, then it's home territory for BJ too, because he's from Connecticut, right? So,
And Chris.
oh yeah, actually, yeah, that's right. I knew
Yeah.
BJ from playing with
House of
Jimmy Bell.
Lords
Yeah, well, actually, no, he also plays with
or Jimmy Bell.
yeah, he plays with Jimmy Bell in the Deep Purple, Deeper Purple. I
And they
just saw
had
them at
another
the
band
hotel.
where Chris was a singer and they were called they've done a couple of records. BJ and Chris, I can't remember the name of their band right now.
Oh, really? I'll have to check it up. I'll look it up after and see
They have a couple of
who it is.
records out with Jimmy. There was besides the other gig. What the
Yeah,
fuck was the name of that band? Can't remember, but right now.
I'll figure it out at some point. But they're all good musicians. That's pretty cool. You have him in the band. So, unfortunately, we were talking earlier. You had some changes and with your guitar playing, it's affected you, and you moved to Mexico. You've had a lot of changes in the past couple of years, and a great album. Songs are out there. Before we get there, I just wanted to step back, but I wanted to talk about one of my favorite things is like album covers, and you had some really cool album covers. And I know at one point, I'm just kind of curious, like where the ideas came from the covers. Before we hop back into the rest and
Um,
talk about the
it
album,
was always the same artist since day one, Breaking the Chains.
really,
Uh,
it's
when Breaking the Chains came out in Germany, I had no band. So, I'd only hired George and Mick to play on the record in Germany, then flew them home. So when the album came out on a French label, Carrera, it was a picture of me on the cover and it said Don Dokken and I'm chained up. That's the original Breaking the Chains. And then we got our deal in America and then George and Mick joined the band and we found Jeff and I just dropped the Don. And even though I'd been called Dokken since I toured Germany in 79, but they put it out as Don Dokken. So anyway, Dave the Knave Williams, I went to high school with him. And they wanted to take the picture of me off the front.
yeah,
So I talked to Dave. I said, can you draw me an album cover? He was an amazing artist. And so he drew the big spiral, Dokken, and it's spiraling around,
Yeah.
and people just think it's a spiral, but it really isn't. It is literally mathematically perfect. The D is going up in a line, the O, the K. If you look at it next
See?
time, it's the
Yeah.
Dokken, and the lines are going out from the letters. And he drew it by hand. Took him forever. So Dave always did all our album covers, and then but he passed away in 90. I can't remember one, but Breaking the Chains, Tooth and Nail, Back to the Attack, it was all done by Dave Williams. He was a great guy. He was a great artist. His main job was he drew money.
Drew money?
Mm-hmm. He worked for a company called Fitzgerald Hartley, and like, say, for instance, Maryland wanted to put out stocks, right?
Yeah.
But you has to be like the little left corner has to be intricate, like a dollar bill, and
Yeah.
right. And then they say, and here's a picture of our capital. We want you to draw the capital in the middle of the stock, and the capital has to be exactly like the capital and perfect, but like this big. And he worked under a microscope, and sometimes it would take him 6 months to draw a stock.
Oh,
But then the
wow.
company moved to New York, and he didn't want to leave LA. But that's what he did most of his life. He made money,
Artist.
stocks, bonds. It was bizarre. He'd show me a corner of a stock, and he goes, "Look at this." I go, "What is that?" He goes, "Yeah, it took me 4 months, just the left hand, right hand corner." And I'm like, it's so fine and so detailed, so people don't, obviously copy it. And that's what he did. But
It's
he
amazing.
decided to stay in LA. Man, he did Great White's album cover. He drew their logo, my logo, other bands' logos. And you think about the Dokken logo, which we've had for over 45
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and it went through a few changes. If you look at Breaking the Chains, the letters are straight, more fat.
Yeah.
Then we did Tooth and Nail. It got a little more angled and thinner. And then by the time we got to Back to the Attack, it was way slanted and thinner. And he just kept changing it just a little bit. But he had a book, because what he did for a living, and about that thick. And it was thousands and thousands of fonts.
Oh,
And he goes, "I have to come up with a font that nobody's done. Not Helvetica, Roman numeral." And he came up with the Dokken logo. And those letters, the way they're designed, are not in that book. He came up with it.
that's really crazy. That's really special. See,
It
I'm glad
st-
I asked.
it
That that's
stood the,
that's good stuff.
it stood the test of time, that logo.
It
And
has.
even though it's been changing a little bit over the years, it's still Dokken. You see the K's, but if you look at the original logo on Breaking the Chains and you get a chance, then look at like Dysfunctional or Back to the logo was changing slowly. Yeah.
So then
So
under
that's
lock and
that
key.
question.
Yeah, thank you. So under lock and key was your first photo album, right?
With a
Photo
photo of
shoot.
us, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
with those
I
terrible, we're wearing those terrible clothes.
The Lord of the Rings outfits. Yeah, I talked to
We
Mark
look
White,
like circus ringleaders.
and it's funny. I never really looked that close at first, and so like, I was talking to Mark Weiss, and he was talking about the shots and how he did it. And then because it's like I said, I looked down. It's colorful. It was back then. I just listen to the music. I don't always have to. But then I really looked at it, and I couldn't believe like all the lapels and all the Robin Hood thing going on there. I was like, wow, I never realized.
Lapels, tails, and the stupid thing like Jeff's going to be red and Mick will be blue and Don will be purple and George will be, it was right in the heyday of the
Yeah,
Poisons, the Motley.
it's all
Everybody's
good.
doing the glam thing, and it was so funny. We had those clothes made by the main guy that was doing everybody. Motley, Judas Priest,
Yeah.
Poison. He made those clothes for us. Cost like 10 grand. We
Oh,
wore them for the shoot, our first concert, and I said, "Screw this, I hate this." And I just took it off and went, "I'm going back to my black leather jacket and jeans." And we all ditched those clothes pretty quick. But it was the time, it was a
oh
time
yeah.
that was everybody was trying to, look at Motley, or Rat. Everybody's wearing their spandex and all that shit.
Yeah.
So that's the way it was, but we just did that shoe with Mark Weiss, and I got rid of the clothes.
I just remember him talking about that. Him saying, I think like George had didn't Yeah, he had an issue with it too. I just thought it was kind of funny because I'm like, I never really noticed that about it. Because like I said, it was the time. I don't really outfits are fun, but it's like the dressing on a cake. You know what I mean? Or the meal. I like the meal. So everything else is fine. Whether you guys wear an outfit or not, whether you wear jeans or leather was fine. I didn't really care. I liked the music. That's what it was about for me. So, you know,
Yeah, I remember when we did those outfits for the shoot, and my manager Cliff Bernstein, who would manage Metallica and
yeah,
Tesla, he's right, Q Prime. And I used to come to rehearsals, and I'd be in my leather jacket, riding my Harley, and a pair of leather pants and my biker boots. And he goes, Don, you look much better when you dress like that. And here I'm wearing spandex tiger stripes, and I'm like, oh my God, and he was right. We were trying to fit
fit in.
into the whole genre. And I remember when we did American Bandstand with Dick Clark, I was wearing that spandex outfit. I was like, oh my God, this is the worst. So I ditched it. I'm just going to wear clothes, a pair of leathers, some boots, leather jacket. And that's what the rest of my career has been.
I think it's most comfortable that that you wear you wear what you do normally.
We look
It's
like
the best.
circus. We look like the ringleader of the circus. I had tails. I mean, it
I
was
know.
ridiculous.
Well, that was the one costume that really caught me. I wasn't expecting because I didn't. I just thought it was colorful suits, and I never really paid attention. That's why, to me, I was very surprised. And I've had a couple people on the show, and so obviously there's a few bands that always are in the circle of musical conversations of rock and Dokken and Rat, and obviously half a Rat was in Dokken at one point. So it's
Right?
all you guys all overlap, and that was one of the things that came up one time. And the other time is Dieter was on from talking about when you were in Germany, and he had nice things to say about you. Talk about the time you were singing and doing the rough spots for Scorpions, and he was talking about how nice it was
Just the
when you were
background
there.
vocals, just
Yeah,
the
yeah,
high
yeah, yeah,
notes.
yeah. Just the high notes. Well, we all know Claus is having problems. You kind of came in and kind of just helped a little bit, but
Well, I was a virgin. I told him, I said, I did the high notes because my voice, I was like an alto
it
at
was
that
real
time.
high. It
I used
was
to hit
high.
some really crazy high notes, and Dieter said, wow. But he mostly hired me because I did vibrato.
Okay.
A lot of singers just go, hey. I went,
Yep.
hey. That's just the way I sing. I don't force it. It's funny, singers copy me later on. They go, la. I go, that is so fake. That's not vibrato. What are you trying to be, Pavarotti? But that's just the way I sing. That's how I keep my pitch.
Is that how you do when you first started? When you first started singing? Is that how you, or do you try
Always
different?
use vibrato. I just couldn't hold my notes. It's just the way it came out. My father was a singer, jazz band, played trombone, and that's the way he sang. So that was kind of weird. It just runs in the family, I
It's
guess.
how it goes, yeah. Well, no, and it's hard because as you get older, your voice changes. I mean, you had a high voice, so there's no way.
Stupid
Most people.
high, and I've had a lot of complaints. I see fans when I go the kiss of, and I have this B flat above a like this super soprano note, and I wouldn't hit it, and you see people go,
No.
"What? Hey, you didn't hit the note." I'm like, dude, I've done like 3,000 concerts. It's like a
Yeah.
motor car. It's getting worn out.
Well, and
So,
that's the thing, and people do say
and
that,
you
and,
get
and it's
older.
funny. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of the singers can't do it. I think I always hear, I wish I wrote the songs in a lower key. I didn't sing so high. It would be just easier if I knew the band was going to last this long, and the songs were going to be played this long. I would have gone a little lower in the notes. You know,
I've said that many times.
have you? Yeah,
When you're in your
it's
20s, I don't know if we're going to have another record, another hit, or anything. I don't know. So here I am just singing up here. I was caught trying to copy Halford, or all those bands and Klaus so high. But, you go on the road for a year and a half and do 400 shows and, you know,
yeah.
5 albums. And then you start like me, I'm husky today just from talking to everybody. And that's just the way it is. And you get older, and I'm 70, man, and some of these bands go, you don't, I've had people say, Don needs to give it up. He can't hit the high notes. I'm like, let's see you hit those high notes. 24-year-old, go ahead, go for it.
And, you say that it's funny, and I agree with you. I think it's you hear it, and I think the fans, and there's so many fans that are positive. You hear the ones that aren't positive, like the Big E show. I heard a billion people say how great it was, and then there's like a handful of people complaining about it. And you're right. I mean, as you get older, like everyone is very intense about it has to be the certain lineup. It has to be you have to do exactly the same. I'm like anybody who does the same job for like 40 years. You don't look the same. You don't sound the same when you started your job. You don't want to
No,
work with
I
the
didn't
same
shave. I
employees.
got a
You don't work
beard
with the
right
same
now.
employees. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I have my gray 5 o'clock shadow, and I was going to shave because we were doing a photo session. I go, screw it. I am who I am, But
Good.
it doesn't matter how if I sang the other night perfect like I did in '83, there'd be the naysayers.
Yeah, you sing for you. You know,
Those are
there's a
the
lot of us that like you singing the way you are.
I
Yeah.
see my daughter used to go on our website and we used to have an open forum so anybody could say anything they wanted.
Oh,
And a guy called Acorn, who didn't use his real name, and he made a comment when he goes, I went to 5 Dokken shows this summer and Don sucked. And I went, then why'd you come to 5 shows? And my daughter would fire back and go, la, 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 la. And we finally blocked him, And I said, sweetie, you got to remember, this guy works at Subway and he makes tuna sandwiches all day. And he has this new thing called the internet, and he can go on and post whatever he wants because I wasn't censoring. And that's their way of getting attention. And then you get the people say, screw you, and I agree with you. And
yep.
so we killed all that after a couple of years. I'm like, I say, if you got nothing good to say about us, then don't comment,
Well, the fact that people do that, they'll interview, like, even I'll bet you I'll interview someone's going to say something in the comments. And I'm like, why comments underneath the show? Whereas on the podcast or on YouTube, if you don't like the artist, why are you even spending your time here? I never go places where I don't want to see a band or an artist. I did, so to me, it's bananas because I'm like, why put the energy in? There's a ton of people that enjoy you and are still enjoying you. I mean, the singles out now, the 2 singles sound great.
It's
It's
over. Look at Fugitive. It's over 500,000 hits.
Yeah, somebody likes it.
Came
So
out years ago. It's already like 60. And I'm like, they played the Big E. I mean, we hadn't played in a month, so we had no rehearsal or anything like that. And I walked off stage and I said, man, we kicked ass. I mean, 90% said we kicked ass.
yes,
Everybody happy. And then you get these like 200 people go, what do you want? I mean, look at, I mean, nobody says anything about, Led Zeppelin, I mean, you look at how he sings now, very low and
yep,
bluesy. And, I mean, you can't go way down inside, woman,
yeah.
you need. And he goes, and he just goes up this high note. I mean, come on, Robert Plant's pushing 80 and he did his Alison Krauss records and Nirvana Nervosa. And so on this record, I just realized I have nothing to prove. I've done it vocally. So I kind of just brought it all down to my comfort range. And I've had nights when I was in the studio and I'm like, man, I'm really husky today. I can't do it today. So I wouldn't sing. And I realized when I started having real big problems with my voice, I couldn't figure out why, and then I realized I snored, I had sleep apnea.
Yep.
I'd wake up in the morning and phone ring and I go, hello, hang on, hello. And I'm like, what's with my
Sore
voice?
throat.
Yeah, because I'm snoring all night. And I finally went to a sleep center and they go, oh, dude, snoring is like death to your vocal cords. So I have a CPAP now I wear.
I had one too. I stopped wearing it though. This is too much.
About
Kill me.
2, when you're single, you wear it. But, if you have a girlfriend or something, it's not really cool when you got this fucking oxygen mask on your face. But but when you have somebody or even a girl, you lay on your side, you're hugging them, you don't snore. But when I was alone, I just fall asleep on my back watching TV and go,
Yeah,
you
it's the worst feeling.
snoring, I'm asleep. And unless the girl would nudge me and go, you're snoring, roll over.
Yeah,
So
that's how it happened to me. My wife.
yeah, they hit you and roll you over.
Yeah.
But, my voice was trashed, because I sleep in these tour buses and you're in these coffins, you will sleep on your back. But, it is what it is. And I'm older now. And even Halford, who was my hero, I mean, he doesn't scream quite as high as he used to. But then
It's not.
they're gifted. Some people have a gift from God. Ronnie James Dio sang exactly the same until even when he had cancer, and he did his last record and recorded the Radio City Music Hall. And I went in the studio, stopped by one day because he was recording finishing the album in Redondo Beach where I lived, and I popped in to see Ronnie, and Ronnie loved Indian food. And hey, Ronnie, how you doing? We toured together, and he was singing, and I was like, man, he sounds amazing. And he's tell the engineer, let me do that again. I can do it better. And I'm like wanting to go, it was perfect. You know, I can't get involved, but I mean, he sounded amazing. And he was in his 70s, but he had the Glenn Hughes, another guy,
Yep.
sing like he did when he sang on Burn, 45 years ago album, when he sang all those high notes and people thought it was Coverdale, but it wasn't Coverdale. Glenn Hughes was hitting all the high, and he still sounds as great as he ever did.
But I think it's a gift too, because I think they don't do anything any different than what they did their whole life. So you know what I mean? I mean, Ronnie always sounded good. I remember when I see him in concert, he didn't even need a microphone. I mean, obviously he used one. His voice is so strong and powerful, like it was just always the same. There's
It was
some singers that can just do it.
the guy. He wasn't very tall, and I asked him on the Last in Line tour, and I get hoarse after 3 shows in a row. I went to Ronnie. I said, what should I do? I'm getting a little husky, and is it honey or what do I take? Tea? And he goes, Don, just go out and sing. That's what he said. Just go out and do it. I went, that's your advice? When I went on tour with Whitesnake, Coverdale, I went to him. He's like, he was drinking shots of scotch and honey. And I'm like, okay. So everybody had their thing. The guy in Humble Pie would take a spoonful of honey and put black pepper in it, raw black pepper in the honey, and stir it up and put it in and swallow it. And I'm
Really?
like, pepper and honey, I mean,
I don't get
tragically, he
that.
caught himself on fire in bed. And I'd say, all right, but I realized what I did it. What it does is the pepper, kind of loosens up the phlegm in your throat, and the honey coats
Okay.
it.
Okay. Yin and yang thing going on at once.
Pepper, and you end up coughing up phlegm for half an hour and hacking up loogies, But that's what the Steve Marriott did. So everybody had their own thing,
I just not drinking milk and stay away from dairy when you're singing is always the best. I always thought, so dairy always gets you all phlegmy. It's the worst. But
Yeah,
I
and I have
think
really bad sinuses, and I've had surgery twice on my left nostril. Like still can't breathe out that. And I had surgery, and I went to this famous ear, nose, and throat doctor who did Michael Jackson and Coverdale. And I went in there, and he said, "Oh, you've got like polyps up in your sinuses, and so you're constantly dripping fluid down your throat, and that's why." He goes, "Your vocal cords are like bright red." And I went,
is that what
"What
happened to you before when you had to do the surgery?
problems?" And he goes, I said, I can't sing. I'm struggling. And then as a singer, you want to make everybody happy. So I'm pushing harder
Mhm.
and harder. And I'm just pushing through the notes and I'm hitting them, but I'm trashing my vocal cords. And the next day I'm like, I don't feel so good. And the guy goes, dude, you got nasal drip, you got polyps. I had surgery, so I had to figure out what's going on.
Was
So
it a deviated septum there going on too? Sounds like that. You had a
a little bit, and it's funny because the guy said, "Oh, you had deep septum." A lot of people that did cocaine got deviated septums, and I said to the guy, "I don't do coke. I've never done coke." And the first time he went up there, he put liquid cocaine on a Q-tip and stuck it up my nose, and I fainted. I
that's
pure cocaine. I went, fainted. So every time I had to go back for checkup, she'd go, "Oh yeah, we know you're the fainter."
that's some rough. You had some rough medical things going on there for you.
And then go, awesome, pure pharmaceutical cocaine up my nose. And I was like, please don't put that up my nose again. I'll suffer through it. I don't like that feeling. So I never did coke.
It's expensive too. Oh, I've heard. I never had a good. I never went that way. So
Coke's
with
fentanyl.
your
Oh, fentanyl.
yeah, right. But then they got the zombie drug too. You see that? How it's all the next level?
No, MDA or I don't know.
No, I know it's called. If you Google it after, it's if you type in zombie drug. I think it's in fentanyl, but it's in a lot of other drugs. There's something else ingredient, and it really makes people with your zombies.
The zombie drug that's got some crazy chemical in it that you completely wax your
Yeah,
brain.
that's the worst. That is, you're done. It
I
destroys you.
talking about, I can't think of it right now. There's a weird name for it,
Yeah.
but we got into it, but now, the world's changed, I mean, there's epidemics, people are dying of fentanyl, cocaine is passe, crystal meth is passe. It's all fentanyl because it's 10 times stronger than cocaine. And then it comes in from China and they say it's 10 milligrams, but then you take one pill and it's 180 milligrams because they're bootlegging it and people are dying. And I just think it's just horrible.
The world, it's changed. I mean, so you started in '70s. So I mean, you've gone through quite an industry change, just musically and obviously talk about drugs, but like the
Yep.
all of it. Though. I mean, because you mean '70s to radio and everything else, and now it's podcasts, and I mean, you've really run the gamut from vinyl to cassette to CD to digital, back to vinyl.
And this album comes out next October 27th, coming
So
out on and CD and upload. But I went through the whole, 70s and 80s but thank God, even though I'm addicted personality, I just wasn't my thing. I mean, I would say Dokken probably never would have broken up if it wasn't for cocaine. My whole band, Mick, Jeff, George, they were whacked out of their minds. And when you get money, you don't buy a gram for $100, you buy an ounce, 27 grams. And they'd stay up for 2 and 3 days on the road and not sleep. And it affected our performance, affected the band. And I'm just on my hands and knees begging, saying, guys, now you're doing coke on stage. They'd walk to the side, and the roadie'd hold a straw and they do a line like, can you not do coke for like 90 minutes? And I couldn't take it anymore. That's why the band broke up. I just couldn't take it,
you guys are so close.
everybody, we were like, as our manager said, who also managed Metallica, who was opening for us before us. And he said, if you guys just pull it together, one more record,
Yep.
after tour, one hit, you'll be headlining arenas, you'll be millionaires, your career will be etched in stone, and you can just keep going. And I tried so hard, God's my witness. And I talked to the band and say, guys, you guys got to get it together, man.
All your albums are so solid coming out too. Like each one was just going and going and going. They're
We
all
go
solid.
up. We weren't one of those bands like Rat. Rat came out with their first album, Round and Round, and they were playing arenas. They went from clubs to arenas. We had to work our way up, supporting Priest, Sammy Hagar, AC/DC, Aldo Nova, Flourish to Call, you name it, we played with them. But we had that slow climb.
Mhm.
And I used to complain to my manager and say, how come we're not playing arenas? We got huge fan base. We sold 2 million records. Just take it easy. You'll have your day, and we finally got to the arena level selling out, but everybody was just out of their minds, in the 80s.
It was a crazy tour. The Monsters tour was crazy. The lineup I thought was such a weird mix. I get why everybody was on there. They were either arena level. You were like the closest. You were like probably the next one to the arena level. But Kingdom Come didn't make sense to me because they weren't up in the same spot. I'm surprised there wasn't somebody else
Well, they'd
bigger.
have that hit, the sound like Zeppelin.
Right, but that's not the same as all you guys.
He screwed his career when the song sounded like Zeppelin.
Oh yeah.
Sounded just like Robert Plant. And they asked him, were you influenced by Zeppelin? He goes, no, not really. I don't like, just own it. The song sounded like Zeppelin. Come on, man. Yeah. Get it on. Get it on. And he kind of basically said, nah, no influence. So they had their one hit, they put them on the bill, and then Metallica went on, which was the worst for us. Because when they're going on before you and they end their show with Kill 'Em All or some song like that, and we're coming on stage singing In My Dreams, I'm like, we look like the Monkees. And I told my manager, Cliff Bernstein, I said, I know we're making more money, like twice as much as them, but could you put them on after us? Because killed here, all right? And that Metallica was one of the reasons we broke up, because they had this mentality when they went on stage, like, if it's our last concert and we die on stage, so be it. It'd be 105 degrees in Dallas in the stadium. They just went on stage every day and just slayed it. And we've been on tour for a year. We've done Aerosmith, AC/DC stadiums in Europe. We've been on the road forever, and we were kind of riding on our glory, and we're kind of tired and ready to go home. And they go, "Hey, you can be on the Monster Rock tour." Great, okay, we'll do it, you know. But Metallica hadn't broke yet. They just done Injustice for All. They hadn't done the Black Album out. The Black
No.
Album put them into the biggest band in
Yep.
the world. We can play anywhere we want for 100,000 people. It could be the Antarctic like they did.
Yeah.
But they were big, but they hadn't, you know, blown out to 200 million records. But they went on stage with this 100% commitment, kicked ass. And I'm on stage with guys that are, you know, coked out of their minds, haven't slept in 3 days. And it was really, it hurt me. It was depressing.
Well, I mean, was it anything, the fact you guys have gotten together and at least played? I mean, is there any kind of like, at least you feel a little better about the relationships at least? I mean, it's gotten kind of weird because you guys, you went on and still played. And I think the music didn't really change. I think what happened, I do think the album,
Oh, you're thinking of Shadow Life. That was a piece of
Shadow, am I saying Shadow Life? Yeah, Shadow. Okay, you're right. Yeah.
no.
That,
Dysfunction was great.
yes,
Uh,
you're right. That was, I thinking of Shadow Life. It just seemed different. It didn't feel like it was,
because I had nothing to do with that record. Nothing. I did Dysfunctional. We had no record deal. I wrote that whole album by myself with Jeff and Mick. I did what I wanted. I had built my own recording studio, and we did Dysfunctional. It took about a year, and I was really proud of that record. And it sold 400,000. Then George came back in the band like the last week of that record. He played one solo on Two Out of Fly. He had nothing to do with Dysfunctional. It sold 450,000 copies.
I mean, The Maze, there's some really great songs. Hole in the Head. I mean, some really great songs on the album. Look at the
Yeah, I mean,
titles backwards.
lyrics, you know, I just write the music. Hold my head, puppets on a string. But it wasn't the classic Dokken sound because I didn't do the music. I didn't write the guitar parts. And then three of them decided, you know, George was into Monster Magnet and he was into all these weird bands. And I'm like, dark. And that's why Shadow Life was, when they sent me the music, I was like, okay, Don, we're going to write the music. You just write the lyrics. And I went, to what? These songs are not Dokken. They're not melodic. They're not catchy. They're just weird, I thought. And that's why that album sold 50,000 copies, you know, and then George left again. So I had nothing to do with Shadow Light. Here's a trivia thing. If you look at every Dokken album we've done, 13, you see the Dokken logo. On
Right.
Shadow Light, no Dokken logo. I refuse to put my logo on it. It's just handwritten Dokken. I own the
Huh.
logo artwork. I said, no, I ain't putting I'm not putting my name on this record. I was very disappointed with that record. It was just terrible. I mean, some good songs, but
How
it
come you
was,
did it then? How come you didn't say like, I'm writing the music?
huh?
How come you didn't push back a little bit to write the music too, instead of just singing on it?
I tried. I just, because it's just too much to get into. I'd have to write a book. I mean,
Yeah,
he
yeah, okay.
says we have to go to Arizona. That's where he was living. And we have to record at this studio. And we go in the studio and it's got like drywall dust all over the floor. I'm coughing up shit. They were remodeling. Shit didn't work. The console kept breaking down. And I'm like, what are we doing here? It's just a crap studio. But George wouldn't come to LA. So we all had to go, and Mick lived in, and I said, look at this studio. I remember I walked in the refrigerator and the freezer was jam packed full of food that had been there for years, like rotten food. And I'm like, I want to get the hell out of here. So it was a very bad environment. And the producer, I remember the first day I met him, it was Kelly Gray. He ended up playing with Queensryche for a while. He'd had one hit record, Max Box, or Candlebox. And we had a meeting a month before with Bob Rock and Bruce Fairbairn, the two big boys that did Metallica.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and they come to our hotel. I'm like, well, man, we got Bob Rock and Bruce Fairbairn. And they go, yeah, we're going to record in Canada and we want to produce your album. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be amazing with all this musical input
Yeah.
and the band, you know. And I went, you're joking, right? Bob Rock, Bruce Fairbairn, who sell tens of millions of records, you don't want to use them as a producers? And I was really upset. And they go, we want Kelly Gray. And I'm like, who's Kelly Gray? Well, he did Candlebox. I'm like, okay, it was a good record, but it's one as opposed to their 20. And being that the band was four ways, they shot me down.
Yeah.
So I just went into a depression. So Kelly
Okay.
Gray was in, and the first thing when I met him, he said, I just want to say, I don't like your voice.
What?
Hand to God. The producer, he goes, I don't like your voice. I went, you don't like my voice? He goes, yeah, all that whiny vibrato and yeah. I don't want you doing that stuff in this record. I just want you singing straight notes. And George is like, yes, finally, we can get Dawn to stop doing that vibrato thing. And I was like, oh, we're off to a good start. So that was it, just the day one. And of course, anybody looks at the old magazines, George was on steroids. I mean, he looked like Tarzan. He had
He was huge. He was huge.
huge biceps. He was all buffed, and he'd come in like in a little bikini thing with a number on it. He was doing muscle man comps tests, and I'm like, whatever. He's all oiled up and shaved, and he's sitting on the couch, and there's oil over the couch, and I'm like, brain, and I'm in, and he was just ripped. But he was doing massive amount of steroids, and anybody knows you do it.
Yeah, your mind.
So it's like every week, him and I are always in a fist fight because he's just, jacked up on steroids. And I'm like, oh boy, this is, we're like almost fist fighting every couple of days. So very bad vibes. The producer tells me he hates my voice. I'm like, well, you're the wrong guy. So, but they liked him because he did drugs. So they were like a family, and I'd come in and they'd have a newspaper on the little end of the table covered up, and I'd lift up the newspaper and there's a big pile of cocaine, and I'm like, oh, great. So I'm thinking, like, you think I don't know? You guys are like running noses, and
Well,
it was a very bad record and a very bad energy, as opposed to the only thing good about Dokken was, for some reason, when we went on stage, we all pulled it together. The Aerosmith tour is probably the heyday of the best we were playing. There's a video on YouTube of us playing in Philadelphia, Aerosmith, and we're kicking ass, just kicking ass. I was singing great. Everybody played great. For some reason, no matter all the problems, when we hit that stage, we'd come together and be the best we could. But then it wasn't. It was
right.
Nobody cared. It was just, everybody was just out of their minds, and it was depressing. That's why the band broke up. I couldn't take it anymore.
I don't blame you. I think, and a band's a small business too. I mean, people forget that too. I mean, you're with them all day long, and finances and emotions and everything else. It's a lot to be. You're so invested into everything that person, everything they do affects you. So if you're
Yep.
not part of it,
And I
it's
thought it was fair. I got the record deal. It was my name. I'd been around for 6 years before they joined the band. And I thought, I'm going to make this simple. 4-way split. I make $1, you make $1, you make it up. That was my deal in Dokken for the whole. So basically, I gave up 75% of my publishing, my royalties,
and it should
millions.
have worked. And it should have worked for the band. Should have been happy because a band, because that's what all bands want. The drummer wants. They all want a part of it. So
Right.
there's the motivation's there. So the fact it didn't is really sad. The money you lost because it didn't even work out that way.
Mick Brown was a lucky guy. All Mick had to do was rehearse the songs, come in the studio for 5 days, cut the drum tracks, and he was off for the rainbow. And he got 25% of our $1 million advances, 25% of our $1 million publishing. I mean, Mick scored. All he had to do was play drums for a couple of weeks, and he was, see you later, see you on tour. But that was the deal I made, and breaking the chains. And so, I paid the price, I mean, but it could have been the other way around. George could have wrote all the hits. Jeff could have wrote all the hits. I don't know. It didn't. It just happened to be that I wrote most of the hits, musically and lyrically. I think they thought we were a Van Halen. Eddie wrote the music, David wrote lyrics, but that wasn't the way it was, because I'm a guitar player. I
didn't realize how much you wrote even in the early days, and even being a fan of the band, I didn't realize because the information wasn't always out there the same as it is nowadays, Or
and everybody was interpretive, but people they thought I'm the singer, George is the guitar hero. No, I wrote In My Dreams. the whole song. George had nothing to do with it. Alone Again, Lucky. I can name a dozen hits we had, but when you see the album, it's say, Don Dokken, George Lynch, Jeff Pilson, Mick Brown. I was just trying to do that to keep the peace. And then finally Under Lock and Key, which was a joke, I wrote like 8 out of 10 songs, all of it. And they're like, we don't want to say Don Dokken, Don Dokken, Don Dokken, Don Dokken. So if you look at the credits on Under Lock and Key, it says all songs written by Dokken. That's it. There was no Jeff, Mick. They didn't do that. And I think it says, and Dokken is blah, 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 blah. Because they couldn't stand the fact that my name would be on there on 8 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, it doesn't matter, guys. It's a 4-way split. I can name 10 bands that I won't, that the singer takes the lion's share of the money. The publishing, the royalties, the keyboard player gets nothing, the drummer gets 10%. But we didn't do that. I know many, many bands that the lead singer takes the lion's share, but I didn't do that. So when I left the band, all the bad press about Don's greedy and he got these $2 billion deal on Geffen. He just wants the money. And I was like, I know what you guys are talking about. It's a 4-way split, So, but when you're on drugs, you see the world differently. So that's why I left the solo album. I
love
mean,
that.
and that was just a thing. I had no record deal and the band was broken up, and I just went into my studio and I had all this poetry, 20 years of poetry, and I just put it to music. And then I just played it on guitar and I sent it out to all these famous musicians like Michael Thompson, who played with Cher, and Alex Acuna on God Rest His Soul on percussion, and Tony Franklin on bass. And I love Solitary. It's very cathartic.
I think you sing it differently too, though. I like the phrasing is different. I've never heard smoke before. Like every song, it's not ordinary like people. And I think it threw people off. To me, I was like, oh, this is fantastic.
I was very proud of that. And I remember I played it for Mick the first night, and even while Mick, it was just a mellow album, all ballads basically. And Mick goes, "Man, this fucking thing sounds great. All the songs are great, and the mix is hi-fi, and it's all and great lyrics." And Mick loved it, and I couldn't get a record company to take that record. It never was released. I only sold it a couple of years ago to some label, and they're for nothing. And I said, we'll promote it, no advance. They just threw it up on the internet, took the money. But it was a great album. I was very proud of it. And, but it was cathartic. I always say it's a good album to listen to when with your old lady and you're having late at night and you're having cocktails, and put that album on, And I was very proud of that record, but no label would touch it. They said, it doesn't sound like Dokken. And I said, I don't know what that means. I am Don Dokken, and I wrote those songs. But they wanted Breaking the Chains. They wanted Just Got Lucky. They didn't want to know about Solitary, and it's never been released. It's out actually on that label Cleopatra, but just threw it out up on Apple, and that was it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, people need to check it out and really listen to it. And don't just listen to it because it's not the same as a regular Dokken album. You gotta listen to it and kind of chill out. It's great. The more you listen to it, the more you can really you listen to it a few times, it grows on you even more.
You got to go. When I heard Nirvana Nervosa by Robert Plant, that's what kind of inspired me. When he had that song, My Love Like an Ocean, it was a very chill Robert Plant album. Nobody expected it. They're expecting a whole lot of love. And he did Nirvana Nervosa, and it was like all chill. I went, I think, and somebody said to me, you should take all that poetry you have and put it to music. And I did. And I just sent it off to my friends and all these famous musicians and said, I'm not going to tell you how to play bass. I'm not going to tell you how to play guitar. I'm not going to tell you how to do the keyboards. You guys are all the A team of, the LA scene. And they just put their spin on it. And it was a beautiful record. And I'm very proud of it. I still have it.
It's great. And I'm telling people to seek it out and check it out. There's a really good album. I mean,
yeah, obviously, can't buy it, but you can download it.
Well, I know, at least you can be proud of it. I mean, obviously, making money off of music nowadays, it's also gotten kind of weird. But at least you produced it well, so it'll always be there, that quality, the way you
Be there.
wanted it.
I'm going to take it back soon. I'm going to press it on vinyl because my contract's up with that label, and it was a great record. And I've had many people that have bought it and went, wow, this is really different. And I really like it. It calms me down, and you're telling stories and poetry about love found and love lost, and like where the grass is green, I mean, that was my analogy of, it was like a joke about me being totally down and depressed, and I'm trying to, like, you know, call God, call to Jesus, no one answered, must be a holiday. Called to Mary, no one answered, sleeping, I guess, okay. Where have all the people gone that I used to know? I mean, the whole song, Where the Grass is Green, is about trying to reach out to the universe, and no one's taking my call. So it was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek ballad, but I'm proud of it. So, and,
That'd be
then I
great on
moved.
vinyl.
Oh man, that'd be killer.
I'd buy that in vinyl. I'd love that. So with actually was doing solo stuff. I mean, so you've always been writing and writing. You haven't slowed down. I mean, there's a break between albums, and now this one's out. Do you see yourself continuing writing for a couple more years? I mean, the Stones have just put a new album out, what, at 85 years old, and some people just are tired. I mean, obviously, some people just don't want to do
And
it anymore.
I love them jumping off the billboards.
Right?
What a great video, man. And they're in their 80s and they put out a new album. I was like, well, but I won't be making any more records. No,
No.
it's just the truth. I can't. I can't play guitar. I took my piano, my Steinway, and shipped it to LA to my daughter, who's a classical pianist. And she was like, oh my God, it's a Steinway. I said, yep, it is. And I can't play piano because of this.
Yeah.
I can't play bass, can't play drums. So, I know this is our last record, and that's just the way it is. I asked John the other day, I said, you want to do another record after this? And he goes, I don't know if I have it in me. And I said, well, if you don't have it in you, then we'll stop. I said, but I can't write any more music. I can write lyrics, but I'd have to be with you. I have tons of ideas in my head, tons. I have so much music in my head that I want to put on tape, but I can't.
Yeah.
So I'm screwed. And John's a lawyer. Everybody knows that. He's an attorney as well as guitar player, and he's got his law practice. And John's very critical of himself when he plays guitar. He wants his guitar to be perfect. I said, perfect is not best. I said, there's millions of bands that play out of tune, and punk band, the Ramones.
Yeah.
It's just the vibe, man. Just get the vibe. You don't have to sing perfect or sing sharp or flat or guitar is perfectly in tune. Just write a riff, man, and send it to me. And if I like it, I'll write lyrics. John says, I got 4 new songs I've been writing. Well, send them to me. But I guess I should never say never, but it just was such a laborious thing to write this new record.
Well, I heard you have some songs that didn't make it, so you're like halfway there. The label didn't want to put some song 4. Well, 6 more, and you got an album, right?
I told my label, you got 6 months to put out a bonus CD. If you don't, I'm only contracted to do 10 songs. I wrote 14 out of the 20. And I said, well, I'll just take the 4 songs back. We're halfway there. You're right.
And if you're doing melodies and come up with it, you could still come up with a big hunk of the sound. I mean, and John's got a great sound, and it fits. It's he's been playing with you. He knows your sound. It's a Dokken sound. I mean, and people can sing. Yeah, it's perfect.
21 years. He's been banned 3 times longer than George, but he knows what I like melodically and musically. And there was a couple songs on this album that he said, you haven't heard them, unfortunately, that he said, I'm not going to play these for you because you wouldn't like them. And like, I'm going to play them for me, John. He played them for me, and I went, I like that. I like that. I like that. There's a song on the album called Over the Mountain. It's really cool, man. Very, very Thin Lizzy. I really love it. And there's a lot of great songs that, nobody's heard yet, but John just thought he should stay in this vein. I said, no, you just write what you feel, John, and play me 5 songs. And if something sparks me from the universe, and literally I'd be, hang on, play that again. I start writing lyrics and scribbling them down. So
It just,
we'll see.
I don't know.
It's been a long time, and I'm 70. Yeah,
I
the
can't believe
show's
that.
kid.
I can't believe that when I heard that. I was like, wait, Don's talking 70?
I know. I my baby face. I've
I
never had plastic surgery, and even when people saw me, like, for 2 years, I didn't shave. I had a beard like down to here, and I had the laugh a year ago. We did the Kiss tour, a Kiss
yeah.
cruise. I've been turning that down for decades. I'm like, I don't want to do that Legends of Rock and
Hmm.
heavy metal cruise to the Bahamas and the Kiss cruise. I wasn't interested. But on this record, the label really pressured me to go on the Kiss cruise to promote the record. And so I said, all right, I don't want to be stuck on a boat for 7 days, but I guess we'll do it. So and nobody wanted to do it. Nobody in the band, I don't want to be on a boat for 7 days. Even though we were the co-headliner with Kiss, and there was LA Guns, and there was Firehouse, I think, and Warrant, but I had to laugh. We got on the ship, and then the first night we all played. Everybody had a beard, and I go, everybody's got. They're like, it's the COVID beard, man. We all just stopped shaving. We
Yeah.
weren't playing, and I had to laugh. Tracy Guns had a big ass beard, and God, the singer in LA Guns had a beard, and Phil and we were laughing our asses off. We all had beards because we'd all just stopped shaving. But
They
yeah,
should have time.
but I had no desire. I mean, who wants to sit on a boat for 7 days and do what? You get two choices: drink till you pass out, or pig out and get fat. Free food. The alcohol
Yeah.
wasn't. Sit in your room. I'm not a sun worshiper. I didn't want to, and we couldn't go out in the boat. There were thousands of people, and no offense to my band members, nobody knew who Chris was or BJ or John. But as soon as I walked out, I got attacked, autographs and photos, and I just stayed in my room in the boat. But it was a bit strange, and we did it, and even Kiss was playing in their jeans and t-shirts. And I was
Yeah.
very shocked that the people were very disappointed. They did one show in their regular clothes in the afternoon, and then at night they go in the theater with their full-blown, the blood and the makeup and the whole enchilada. And that's what the fans wanted to see. So Kiss knows where their bread is buttered. Why they're still doing this? They're all like, more money than God. And I said, Jesus, I mean, you don't need the money. I should live like 5 houses down from me. You got a huge mansion in Beverly Hills, and I live down the street in a small little house. And they keep saying it's the end, the end, the end, the end, but they keep going on tour. I'm like, I don't know why. If it's the rush, the spiritual rush, which I get, like 24 hours ago in Massachusetts, when I walked on stage, all those people, 7,000 people, I was like, it don't get any better than this. I always say it's 22 hours of hell for 2 hours of glory.
Yeah. How long do you think you can keep playing then? Like, do you think live? I mean,
I told the band, we can keep playing as long as you want. We got new songs. We can start playing. I'm dying to play the new songs on Heaven Comes Down. My label said, don't play them because everybody's got iPhones
bootleg,
now.
right? And the
They'll hold
album,
it.
everybody, October 27th. Heaven comes
Yep.
down. Just put that there a million times.
So I'm like, they're like, don't play anything. Don't play anything. I'm like, I'm dying to play the new songs. How about just at least Fugitive? It's out.
Yeah.
But we hadn't rehearsed, so we didn't play it the other night. And everybody's like, I'm not playing Fugitive. I'm like, next show in 2 weeks, we're back on tour again. But
Yeah.
I'm dying to songs. But it's a hard, really hard call that I guess we're lucky. Some bands had one or two hits, and trust me, they've opened for us. And the fans wait for those one or two hits, and the other 9 songs, everybody's like, I don't know this song.
Right.
I call it filler. But we had Into the Fire, The Hunter, It's Not Love, Lucky, Breaking the Chain, it just goes on and on. Dream Warriors. I mean, we can't even, our whole set is all hits.
It's great. Yeah.
So I go, what do we get rid of? You want to play something off the new album like Fugitive or Gypsy? Do we get rid of Into the Fire? Do we get rid of Alone Again? Do we get rid of Dream Warriors? What do we get rid of? If you're Metallica, you can play 3 hours, because their show and they're playing huge arenas. But when we do these gigs and they say, just play 90 minutes. What song should I drop? I don't know. Let's get rid of Alone Again. No, the nail. No, let's get rid of the fire. No, let's, it's a really hard call. So we're right in the middle of that right now, trying to figure out which song to ditch. And of course, if we don't do Into the Fire or Breaking the Chains, which is 45-year-old song, people complain. So you can't make everybody happy. We played Try to Fly in our show. That was on Dysfunctional. And it's a very, abstract, deep track. But that's a song we do, my homage to Jim Morrison, I guess. But we do Try to Fly because that's the song that John gets to play a solo and shine. That's for John.
Yeah.
We ditched it the other night. We didn't play too high, we just didn't have time, but we played tracks. We can't just play the hits. We're not we just, I don't know. We want to play what we want to play.
Maybe just swap them out once in a while.
Happy, then,
Yeah. Do like Elvis Costello, a lot of those guys, they just go on, they do a different set every night. And if you're a fan, it's even more exciting because you get to see all the shows and you don't know what you're going to get. Because then the fans complain, it's a greatest hits set. It's always the same set you see. You get that one. If you play new stuff, you're not playing the old stuff.
I saw same show. I just saw it last year, same show. I went, oh shit. But I do remember I saw Iron Maiden probably 10 or 12 years ago at Irvine Meadows in California. And they had a new album and they only played the new album. That was it. They didn't do Run for the Hills. They didn't play Run for the Hills or any of their hits. And I could see the audience was going, what's up? Where's the hits? And I felt the same. I was like, I'm an Iron Maiden fan. I want to hear all the cool songs I grew up with. They only played that new record and nobody knew the songs. Nobody knew them. I think they came back on for an encore and did two of their hits. They did Run for the Hills and one other song. But I could see the fans seemed very disappointed on the internet. And I kind of went, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Well, you can play some songs. I mean, look at Def Leppard comes out and they saved her. They came out and did a brand new song opening on a stadium tour. Most people didn't know it. I mean, if you had the album free, and I knew it, I was like, this is fantastic. I love the idea of a band coming out at this point and doing a new song.
I agree.
It's totally not safe. It's not safe at all. And it's so exciting that it could fail or could be great. I mean, that's at this point, what else is there?
You make the fans happy or the band feels happy, but I'm not an employee of our fans. Right. I'm a musician and I want to play songs that I love and they're close to my heart. Like you said, they played a brand new song. Nobody knew it, but you're like, oh, that's cool. Def Leppard.
That's me.
It's cool. But you're a hardcore music lover and you're a musician. It's different.
Right.
I have to realize at this point in my career that when I look in the audience and I see 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, they weren't born when I wrote some of these songs in the 80s. They were born in the 90s. And then you got fans I see they're in their 50s and 60s. And I'm like, what an eclectic crowd we have. But everybody was singing the lyrics. Everybody was singing along. I saw 20-year-old kids singing Into the Fire and Breaking the Chains. I was like,
yeah,
he wasn't born. And I talked to these people after the show and they say, well, you get married, you buy a house, you get out of college, you get a job. You're not going to concerts all the time. You have a life and you have children and they take their records and CDs and give them to their kids.
Oh, okay.
But when 10 and 12, they couldn't come see Dokken. They were too young. So now they've grown up with Dokken and Def Leppard and all those bands. Now they can come see us. So that's what I see going on now.
My kids grew up with hearing it. So like I bring my 22-year-old daughter to see my son's house, see him here, see was Rats. So like they know because they've gone, they grow up hearing the songs that I've listened to. I also listen to a lot of different stuff too.
When they turn 10 and 11 and 12 and your parents turn you on to the Rats and the Motleys and the Aerosmiths and then these kids grow up, but a lot of these bands are not around anymore, but we are. I hear it all the time. I always wanted to see Dokken live, but I was only 12. I couldn't go. You know, I just sent a t-shirt last week to a 10-year-old and he was crushed. He bought a Dokken t-shirt, but he went somewhere with his dad. He came back and he left his t-shirt.
Oh,
And he was just crushed. And he literally wrote a letter to my agent and said, you know, I bought a Dokken t-shirt and I left it on my seat and someone stole it. And, you know, can you send me one? I said, sure. So we sent him a t-shirt.
cool. That's
To
very
me,
cool.
like a typical 10-year-old, you know, letter said, thank you so much. He said, to whom it may concern, thank you so much for sending me the doc. And he sent a picture of himself wearing the Dokken t-shirt. So those are 10, and he just loves Dokken. So we're in this weird universe now where I've got 20-year-olds, 25, 30, 60, you know. I see it. I look at the audience and I go, what the hell's going on? We have a whole new generation. So I'd love to keep going. But I can only keep going until I can't. You know, a year ago, because my leg's partially paralyzed from this too. And I said, guys, I don't know if I can stand on the stage for an hour and a half. You know, my leg gives out. And I'm not going to sit on a goddamn bar stool. And
No.
you know, I go to the gym 3 days a week, do my leg lifts. I want to keep going. My soul will tell me when it's time to stop. My soul will, you know.
I think
We can
that's
start
great.
festival. We had 50,000 people in Germany. And I was like, wow, this is great. But when I can't do the best I can, then it's time to stop, you know.
I
And
hope
we're
I get
not,
to see you. You know, I had the Big E to stop me. That crowd, there's no way I would have made it out of work. I never would have made it in time.
we almost didn't make it on time. I couldn't believe, I never heard the Big, fancy in the week. Apparently we
No,
played there 10 years ago.
I stopped going because
Oh,
it's gotten so big now. It's
it's
a kid
huge.
was long. Yeah. I literally could not have done it if I left work in the middle of the day from Connecticut to get there. I would not have made your show.
Yep. Yeah. And when they said, "Were you going on at 8?" I went, well, the fair's till midnight, but it took us an hour, maybe more to get, I don't know, 10 miles. It was crazy, you know.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
You know,
corn dog. So I'm happy about. I'm
that's
sure.
I will.
I'm sure it's on YouTube when the guy walks up with a foot long corn dog
I'm
out.
gonna look it up. I'm gonna look up after this too. That's great.
I mean, must.
I want.
Yeah, I was getting ready to sing, and I went. He's going like this. Everybody, hang on a second, and I ran over and took a big bite out of it. I'll show what it looks like out in my living room. Whoops. Oh,
Look at some of those high ceilings, man. Those are nice.
what happened to the Zoom? I don't see anymore.
I'm here. I can see you. You're on. So
Oh,
did it shrink
okay.
up?
I'm gone. It just says Zoom, but are you seeing me or my cathedral ceilings?
Both. It's a shot of your face, and then up higher, as you can see your ceilings.
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy roof, huh?
That is insane. It's like a church, like a
All this,
Spanish church.
that's what it is. You see all the stained glass windows?
Oh, wasn't it? Was it a church?
Yeah,
Oh wow.
converted. Basically, the guy was eccentric. We're only the second owner. And I got this window up there. And you see the sun coming through now. It's all rainbows. But then you got this.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the view. In every room of our house, this is the view. So when I
That
say I'm a mountain, I ain't kidding.
yeah, that is insane. That
Those
is
probably 80 miles away. You see how high up I am. I can look out the studio and I can see Los Alamos where they made the nuclear bomb. And you see everything I'm just way, way, way up here. And we wanted to buy, my girl and I we just wanted to be, solitude. And I got my crazy windows. I let all the ivy take over.
that is
Crazy.
beautiful, man.
That's my front yard and all the ivy. And I told her, do you want to cut that ivy back? She says, no, I like it. I said, all right, we'll leave it. There's my lawnmower out there.
You got a
But
green thumb anyhow.
oh yeah, man, that's my thing. It always was. So, this is a very unusual house.
Beautiful. Beautiful though.
And it was built and there's no nails. that'd be
Oh, it's one of
illegal.
those.
Oh yeah, it's all oak dowels and what, because when I walked in, when she found it, I saw how they had made the beams and what they call uh, dovetail. You see how the
Yep.
wood's joined in there? There's no nails. And look at the freaking beams. They're like 2 feet thick. And it's like, holy shit, this guy was a nut. You know, the kitchen. I mean, you don't need beams that big, but that's what he wanted.
It's gonna last forever. That's how you know furniture's good. If it lasts, if furniture lasts for a long time, open the drawers up. You'll see that little dovetail. That's how it'll be like, yep, that's why this
Yep.
thing lasted. And,
Yeah. You see mortise and tenon and dovetail and rabbited, and
yeah,
that's nobody makes,
that's
those.
quality.
Anyway, so here I am up in the middle of nowhere, and that was kind of the inspiration for Fugitive because the
Well,
band can't
yeah,
believe you're in LA. And John made the comment because I sent him some pictures. He goes, holy shit, dude, you live like, do you have any neighbors? I said, neighbors? No neighbors. I don't allow neighbors. I mean, I have no neighbors, none. I mean, I just said, I'm just going to buy the whole mountain. And if I buy the whole mountain, then I don't have to worry about neighbors, you know? That sounds crazy, but, and they
well, that
said, sell. And I said, you know, I mean, literally our property goes all the way up the mountain behind here. There's no houses, you know? I see one about a mile away and a mile to the right. But, after living in LA, your whole life or New York, wherever, you have a 5 foot setback. Everybody's 5 feet apart.
well, that's the question that the people out there have said this is how people say like, why is if Don can't hit those high notes I did when he was 20 years old? Why is he touring? Does he need the money? Well, clearly
No.
you own a mountain and you have a cruise tree on it. You're okay.
Yeah.
You know,
And I got a Maserati and a Range Rover in the garage. I
right,
don't,
right. So that answers that person's question. I never thought that, but I think it's pretty funny. That really knocks it home for them.
the truth is, a lot of my peers, my friends, I love them dearly, and they made millions, and it's all gone. And I confess, I've made a million, lost a million, made a million, lost a million, When I first made my first million, I mean, David Geffen, gave me a $2 million deal. I went out and bought a Harley, and then I bought another one and another one. Why did I need 3 Harleys? I didn't. And then I bought Rolls Royces, and then I bought a Ferrari, and I just, that's all behind me. My only regret is I had a 64 Corvette Stingray convertible. I couldn't bring it here because it's 2-wheel drive. You have to have 4-wheel. My
Okay.
driveway a mile long, so I had to buy a 4-wheel. And I was going to buy like a Kia or a Hyundai.
Yeah.
And my says, Don, you got to buy a cool car. You're a rock star. Buy it. Find a 4-wheel drive that's totally bitching. And I found the Maserati Levante that's 4-wheel drive. So, okay, I'll buy that. So, it's my last expensive little thing, but there's no roads here. We live up in the high desert and it's gravel. And so all my bitching cars, I had to sell them. And trust me, I didn't want to, but just be sitting here. I hadn't ridden my Harley now in 3 years because of my right hand.
Oh, yeah.
Let me sell it. And it's downtown in storage. And I tried to get on it about 4 months ago, and I just rode it around the block and I dropped it. And I went, okay, I don't think I can ride this anymore, but maybe
Yeah.
someday. That was one of my love of my lives is riding my Harley with all my friends, and we'd go up the coast highway with the ocean on the left and drive up to Carmel. And that's a really peaceful thing to do on a Harley, as long as you don't get ran over. So
That's the other thing, right? If you fall now, you get older, your bones don't heal the same.
I have 2 broken ribs right now, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Oh, this one and that one. I broke it about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe. I don't know. And I was all wrapped up, and I took the bandages off to go to Massachusetts and sing because I couldn't get a deep breath. And when I
Yeah.
coughed, and I went to the doctor, and he said, we looked at X-ray, goes, nothing I can do. You got to let him heal. At your age, it's going to take a couple months. And I went, God damn it. So you never know what's going to happen. I broke ribs just getting out of the bed in the middle of the night to go pee. You know, it's off of my t-shirt on the edge of the bed and threw it on the floor. And I got up and I stepped on my sweatpants and my t-shirt. And my feet went out from underneath me and landed on the nightstand right in the corner, man, and just cracked 2 ribs. And I went, oh man, that hurts. But you know, I did taekwondo for 20 years and I've taken a lot of good hits. You know, I used to go to Korea at least every year and study with Master Kim, who was the president of the National Taekwondo Federation. And you know, I get my ass kicked because you had all these guys that watched too many Bruce Lee movies. And you know, I took some good solid hits, but I didn't break my ribs.
But that's the way to
So
learn, though, too, right? I mean, when I took martial arts, I'd fight the biggest guys in class. I was the worst fighter. And they're like, why do you do that? I'm like, because if I get in a fight on the streets, I'm not going to fight the worst person. I'm going to fight, you want to go against the hardest and you get beat.
you get beat, you take hits and you got to suck it up. And, you know, I
Yeah.
went to high school, which was like, you know, now everybody knows Venice is like hardcore with the Crips and the Bloods. And, you know, I went to high school. It was, you know, fight my way to school, only 7 blocks away, walking to high school. And, you know, and they were chicken shit. It's always 3 against 1. 3 guys jump out, they want my lunch money. And I just got sick of it. So, you know, I started taking Taekwondo and but I was good at kicking. I was never good if I got down on the ground, you know,
Yeah.
grappling.
Grappling.
I'm not good at, you know, Brazilian style jiu-jitsu. All that. If they get me on the ground, then I was in trouble. I just, you know, not good at it. But I enjoyed it because I just got tired of people taking my lunch money. Oh, you know,
It's fun. It's fun. It's a fun workout, though. People don't realize how fun martial arts is, I think,
of it.
you know.
And Master Kim failed me all that way, 10-hour flight, go for 10 days, sleep in a dojo with a bunch of strangers, eating kimchi, you know, which is stink. Everybody's farting. It just stinks to high heaven. But he failed me, you know. I knew all the moves, you know, I knew all the katas, but I didn't have the cardiovascular for it. You know,
Uh,
I'd be puffing and, you know, and that's the way it was. And he just said, you're not ready yet, you know. And you know, I had my son take karate and he got to be 10. He just got bored with it. I told Master Kim, I said, Taekwondo's boring. It's just the same thing every time. Inside, out, inside, punch, boom, block. You do it 3,000 times, you're bored. So that's the way it was, you know. But he's passed now, I'm pretty sure. He was an old guy. He was probably 80 and he'd tell me to hit him and he always have a cigarette in his mouth. And he'd go, punch me, Don. And I'm like, no, I don't want to punch you.
was he
You're
small? I mean, I didn't teach you
gonna,
to do that. He's a
you're
tiny,
gonna,
tiny, tiny guy. You'd be like, kick my legs, and you kick it. It's like a tree trunk. He was the smallest guy.
they know what they're doing. But yeah, I was a good kicker and a good sweeper. You know, somebody comes at me. Master Kim always said, Don, if you, he always told me the number one thing he always said about martial arts. He said, how do you win a fight? And I said, how? He goes, walk away. That was his sage advice. You want to win a fight, walk away if you can. And I went, sage advice. If you can't walk away, do what you have to do. He goes, but if the fight lasts more than 2 minutes, you're doing something wrong.
You
He
want to get out of
said,
there.
you know, either take him down, just take him down, either knock him out or take him down and get him an arm bar or a leg lock or a chokehold, and it's over, you know. But if you guys are going on and on and on, you're doing something wrong, man. And I said, okay, sage advice. So, but I enjoyed it, you know, for years and years and years. And it was always funny because George, you know, when he was on steroids and stuff, and God, it seemed like every 10th show, he's like, I'm going to kick your ass. Let's go outside. And I'm like, all right, let's go. And I'd always say to George, if you hit me, George, with those muscles, you're going to break my jaw. But you got to hit me first. You're going to come at me and I'm just going to sweep you and you're going to be on the ground. And it was embarrassing on the AC/DC tour. We're doing stadiums and we had to go on stage in like 10 minutes. And George wanted to go out in the parking lot and fight. And I went, oh, Christ. So we went out in the parking lot, and I think Angus Young was came out there, stuff like that, and Malcolm. And I just told him, I said, "You sure you want to do this? You know, I know you're buffed, and you look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but muscles, as you know, muscles have nothing to do with
Nothing to do with it. Nothing.
nothing. If anything, it slows you down." So, but that was like a normal thing in Dokken, and it was very sad. I find it very, very sad that we could have just kept going and going and going, but you had coked up band, guitar player on steroids, egos. I'm sure me too, when you're famous and everybody thinks you're God's gift, and it just all unraveled. And I see, I'm glad that after we broke up, our managers, when they were doing the Black album, Metallica, they had a therapist in the movie.
Yeah.
They had a therapist in the studio every day. Or that band, I don't think would have survived, even though Jason did, you know.
Well, I
But
think
that,
that's the whole thing.
yeah, I mean, that therapist was supposed to be for us. But so when we broke up, Cliff just took his whole plan and moved it to Metallica. Bob Rock, Fairburn, he just took the whole thing and shifted over to Metallica because I just couldn't take it anymore. But when I saw the movie, I didn't feel so bad. They had a therapist and they actually, showed it in the movie. You know, here's the therapist having therapy with everybody. And I guess Jason left. And I know why he left, but I won't go into that. It's not my business. I know why he left. So it's kind of a bummer.
It
But
is. I mean, he seems happy. Water under the bridge for a lot of those guys, though.
yeah,
It
he's
was,
got money. I think he was living in Montana for a while and had a big ranch. And I think he's happy, you
oh,
know.
totally. I totally think
And
he is.
but I said it in Monsters of Rock. I said these guys are going to be the biggest band in the world someday. And now they are. So to just get back to my question, how long I'll keep
Yeah.
going until it's not fun anymore.
Okay.
If I
And
can't, you know,
then
or
that's perfect. I mean, you do it because you love it. That's the reason why. And I think you answered the questions I was going to ask you. I mean, but you touched on all these things that, like, you know, and people are like, "Oh, is it money?" Like, yeah, because I think you just actually just kind of put it out there for everybody. And I think it's important that people just you do things because you love it. And if you're an artist, I mean, that's what it is. You're an artist. And you're creative, and if you're not being creative or doing it, you don't need the money. Why do it? You
yeah.
still enjoy it. And I think the thing I was saying is this album is exploding. This is like it's like a second breath of fresh air for a lot of fans right now. You know?
And you've only heard two tracks. Trust me, the
Yeah,
rest is strong. And I mean, I always make the analogies of Monet, who painted Gardens into Bernie, and or the guy that cut off his ear, what's his name? They all died poor.
yep.
They just painted because they loved painting. God damn it, what's his name? The one that cut his ear off because he was and his brother was when he died, his brother had like 80 of his pictures, paintings, and people bought them for like $500, $300. And now they're in the Louvre, $10 million. I can't remember
Yeah,
his name. He did a
yeah.
self portrait with the bandit with his ear
What
missing.
was
I
it
can't
Van
remember.
Gogh? Van Gogh,
Van,
right?
Van Gogh.
Yeah, it was Van Gogh. Yeah.
Died in a little room. He was a pauper, Monet, pauper, and they didn't paint because they were getting rich. They were getting painting because they loved it.
I think that
I
Van
don't
Gogh painting though looks like the drummer from Cream though. Uh, you look at the
Ginger,
picture.
Ginger
Yeah, Ginger
Baker.
Baker. Yeah.
Yeah, I was bummed when he died. Now there's nobody left. And one of my biggest heroes was Jack Bruce. Man. And when they did that concert, it's been now 25 years at the Royal Albert Hall, the reunion of Cream,
Yeah.
and didn't realize that Jack had cancer. I mean, at that time, he had cancer. He was not well. And they did that. They did two of them. The second one, he had cancer and he wasn't well, but he sounded great. You know, uh, it was amazing. And Ginger, obviously, if you look at the documentary about Ginger, it's called Meet Mr. Baker. He was living in
It's
Apple.
crazy.
He was a crazy fucker.
Oh yeah.
You know, he makes $1 million for that show, and he went out and bought like 30 Arabian horses, and he was broke again. Don't know how to money, you know, but if you learn from life and you learn your lessons and invest and save your money and just listen to Warren Buffett, whatever he says to do, to take your money and do what he says. That's what I do. If he says Vanguard, I'm in Vanguard. You know?
It's the way to go, right? It is, so people just understand, enjoy the music, enjoy Dokken while together. Don's loving his voice. He's doing it because he loves it. So if he's out there and you get a chance to see him, see him. If it's not your thing, you don't have to see it.
Yeah.
The album's not going to be killing. I mean, you don't need to complain about these things, these people.
Right. If I can't sing the way they remember me, then just don't come to the show. You know, I mean, I got no problem with that. You know, I mean, I do know a lot of musicians that in the 80s, and I talk about why you're doing this. And they said, I just want the money and the chicks. And I'm like, but what about the music? I just want the money and the chicks. And I'm like, but that's your only motivation. That's not really a good motivation to keep making music. You know, I had a dream in 77 that someday we were going to play the Whiskey a Go-Go and headline and sell it out. A whopping 700 people. That was my bar. I didn't think about arenas and playing the Forum and stadiums. It wasn't on my radar. You know, I just assumed I'd take it as far as I could, and then I'd get a real job. Accidents, you know, people being at the right place at the right time. My girl and I ended up on a mountain, you know, and with 3 dogs that shed everywhere. Yeah, I heard you, Bentley. Come here, Bentley.
Yeah, saw one of the pictures you posted, one of the pictures of the dog, one of your dogs. Cute.
Yeah, and Bentley's in the video of a fugitive. And you know, my partner always, we go to the shelters, we always take the dogs that nobody wants.
Yeah.
And Bentley had his tail between his leg, and he was kind of growling, and I was like, I like that dog. I don't want that dog. You know, dog's gonna bite me. But the tail between the leg, I couldn't see what was going on. And I said, something fishy. And we took him, and took about a week to be home for his tail to slowly come out, which meant he wasn't afraid.
Right.
And when his tail came out, it was bent in a 90-degree angle. Somebody had broken his tail as a puppy, snapped it. Oh. So it's all bent. We named him Bentley.
Bentley, I get it. That's beautiful. That's the way people should always rescue dogs. My dog's a rescue dog too. We got him. His Ben. He's from his brother's name was Jerry. They had 2 of them, Ben and Jerry. He was the same thing, shy and everything else. And it's good to rescue dogs
because they've had we don't know what happened to them as puppies. You know.
No, you don't. And I don't even know what breed he is. It looks like he's kind of a pit bull, but it looks like he's a boxer, and he also looks like he's a collie. Like he's got all these different breeds in him. He's like 17 years old. I don't know how he's still alive.
That's a long.
It is.
We had 4. We lost one a couple of years ago, Cody, and he was the love of my life. He was a golden doodle. He was a purebred, but I took him all over the world. I took him on the plane. I took him to the concerts. I took him to Europe. He was my buddy. I had papers from the doctor that I was crazy, and so I had to have a service dog. About like huge dog. They're expecting a little Yorkie or a little Chihuahua. And I'd walk on the plane with this big ass, long-haired, white, wavy doodle, and they'd be like, whoa. Yeah, he's a service dog. Here's the papers.
I couldn't hurt
played the other night, the Big E.
Yeah.
Everybody loved it, and some people said, dog. I said, I know, I saw it. But I'm like, wait a minute. We kicked ass. They should have been grateful. We had a great show at the Big E. But there's always that one guy that works at Subway making tuna sandwiches not happy.
There's always going to be that 1% or less 1%.
We're not there for them. We're there for us. When the 4 of us, when we can tell we're gelling, when 4 guys are just locked up and we're all grooving, it's a rush.
Yeah.
And what I used to miss in Dokken, we'd have the amazing shows together. And then we'd be on tour with Aerosmith, something like that. And the band, we're just like a mess. George is playing behind, Jeff's a mess. Mick's falling off the drum throne. I'm like, man, this really sucks, and that's when it's not fun, and that's why the band broke up. I knew we were doomed. We were doomed. Well, we had a long tour. I'm very grateful. And like I said, I'll keep going until, I can't,
Yeah.
and the band that too, you know, losing my arm, John's problems, Chris, we're still going. And I get, maybe it's a blessing that we had COVID for 2 years. It gave me time to finish the record, and pick the best. Trust me, half the record, I rewrote it 3 times. The song was done. I was happy with it. I'm like, I don't know. That chorus could be a little better. And I'm not crazy about those lyrics. And let me fix them up a little bit. And, I just kept pushing it and trying to make it the best it could every song. I get very disappointed when I hear the hit, and then the rest of the song is all filler. I think it's a ripoff to the fans. I did that. You're about a record and you hear the song on the radio, like, oh, I love that. I love that song. You buy the record and like the other 8 songs are like just boring.
Well,
And
it's crazy like that though. I mean, that's why I buy albums. I'm a guy that buys the album, like the full albums, and I think like with like when I heard Under Lock and Key, it was like one of the best albums. The song order, like song
yeah,
order, is so important.
it
Under
was
Lock and Key is one of the best. It's like, it should be like a blueprint of like to show people like this is how a song order should be in an album.
pacing,
Yeah,
time. Trust me, I resequenced that thing 5 times.
I get it. It's I always pay attention to that in albums all the time, and to me, I'm like that still is like one of the best sequence albums I've ever, you know,
It's a
done.
journey. Starts out and ends with a bang. It's just a really good record. That was our record that really just put us into the stratosphere. And and same thing. Um, I just, the band wasn't happy. They thought we had 10 songs. And I said, no, we got 5. We need 5 more that are a little better than these. So,
Until it worked. It worked. So, you know,
I mean, Metallica, I think has this, well, maybe, I mean, when they did Load and Reload, 15 songs on a CD, there were some songs I thought shouldn't have been on there. It's like, what was the point, But hey, I can't talk shit about them. They're the biggest band in the world. So God bless them, But
yeah,
they have this added play. They're billionaires, they're billionaires and they're still out tour right now, because they love it.
yeah.
About
That's
money. I know where they live. I know where Lars's house, James's house. Everybody. It's so funny. Kirk, James, and Lars, all their homes are absolutely different. One's ultra modern. One's more like an old castle up in San Francisco. One's
Kirk's
out in Nevada. I
and
mean,
James
all their
Hunter.
James with his pickup truck and his gun rack, and they're all different people, but they all have that same. We love doing what we do. It's not about money. It's not about fame. It's not about anything. It's just about let's get on stage and just kick some ass. And I've always felt the same. And luckily, I've got BJ and Chris and John, and they all have the same attitude.
Yeah, I
So
think you have a great band, great players. I think it's and they're
great.
good, and you guys get along. So I mean, it's the perfect deal right now. And it's
Especially
exciting.
we go to dinner, we hang out, we shoot the shit, we go to the bar, have a cocktail. It's like we're all bros, And in Dokken, I never even saw those other guys when we had a day off. They just disappeared. You know, wherever that bag of cocaine was, that's where they were.
Well, you guys
So
had chemistry musically, but everything else was kind of put together early on in your career. You guys didn't.
the
You guys
chemistry,
weren't a band. To begin with early on, like it was put
we were just
together for the need.
we were good musicians, but yeah, it was very strange how we survived
Yeah,
those minutes with
you
all
guys
these.
are the perfect storm.
There you go. Everybody was different. You know, Jeff wanted to be a lead singer. George wanted his own band. Mick didn't care. you know, he just wanted to be at the Rainbow. So we were all very, very different. But I'll let you go. Take care, and thanks
Thank you
for
very
taking
much.
for me.
Thank you very much. I'll tell you to see you soon. Take care.
I'm gonna watch the sun go down. All
All
right.
right. Thank you. Bye bye.